NASA at the Kennedy Space Center. So my job here is to really work the overall vision of food production as it augments and supplements the prepackaged food system for the missions all the way out, exploration all the way, Moon, Mars, Gateway, etc. And it's how do we strategically integrate food production in the exploration roadmap. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the kinds of things we do in this room. First of all, what are the challenges? Right now we've been doing everything on the ground and bringing our crops, or potential plants for crops, to low Earth orbit and seeing how they perform in microgravity. But in both cases, we're under the protective envelope of the Earth's magnetic fields, and so we don't have to worry about deep space radiation. That's going to be the next big challenge. As we go ahead and build the Gateway, and you guys are all familiar with the Gateway, at least in concept?
I'm not.
Okay, the Gateway is a vehicle that's going to be like a little small station that's going to be deployed in cislunar space. And cislunar space is really the space close to the moon, between the Earth and the moon. And it's going to be there for years and it serves as a really good jump-off point to either go down to the moon to do lunar surface operations or to actually send off a vehicle that goes on a mission to Mars, because we don't have to worry about that gravitational well about the Earth, because it's a lot less by the moon. So they'll actually go and assemble a transport mission vehicle out there. So at the Gateway, what does that do? Very small vehicle, not going to have much access and much space. We won't need food production there, but it serves as the first opportunity to check out how the plants perform in that deep space radiation environment. So we will be growing plants on the Gateway to see how they perform, and then hopefully mating them to hardware, blending them to hardware that will deploy on the deep space transport, which is the mission I'm going to need to have supplemental food production capabilities. And the reason I need it for a mission to Mars on the deep space transport is that the prepackaged food we have that served us so well up until today is only really got efficacy for certain key nutrients for storage times of around 3 years or so. They're looking to expand that, but right now 3 years is kind of limit. After that, key nutrients like vitamin C, potassium, vitamin B1, they start degrading. And people have asked in the past, well, why don't you just send vitamins? Same thing with vitamins. There's a storage limit with them too. Right. So we need the supplemental food production to be able to augment that diet for these longer missions so we can keep the crew healthy and operating at peak performance. We do that with probably novel sets of crops for vitamin C, because oranges or citrus requires a tree, requires a lot of space. They're not a viable candidate. What we're focusing on now, in some regards, are peppers. We've done a lot of pepper experiments. Peppers are high in vitamin C, and we now select cultivars that don't take much space. We always try to be very sensitive about the resources they use, etc. So we're going to need food production for the transport for sure. Everything we're dealing with now on these microgravity flights are all picking and preparation. So things that are traditional salad crops, I can just take them as they grow, harvest them, and consume them right away. We basically, on these vehicles are smaller, more compact, less resources. We don't have the ability to put processing and preparation equipment there. We don't have the crew support to be able to go ahead and do some of that complex processing and preparation either. So everything right now is pick and eat crops. But when I start talking about spending significant time on either the surface of the moon or the surface of Mars, now, to really facilitate Earth independence, we're going to look to see, hey, how can I replace some of the food that I have to ship up from the Earth and actually take care of growing more complex staple crops there that I do have to process and prepare. So that's the ultimate end game of all this. Is I'm permanently on the surface of Mars, and I have a bioregenerative life support system. I have a plant habitat that's producing oxygen. It's consuming carbon dioxide. It's processing wastewater, making it so that the plants can use the wastewater, don't have to dispose it. I have a sealed environment that's actually regenerative. So that's ultimately the long duration task. Let me switch real quick because I don't have much time to some of the things you'll see, unless there's any questions. All right, some of the things you'll see in this room. First of all, people always ask about the flowers in the background. If you saw photos from space last year, I guess it wasn't too long, Scott Kelly grew zinnias on the ISS. These are actually those zinnias' children, because we brought back seeds, and those are the seeds that were grown here from those plants. So Their parents were born important in that maiden space, so to speak. And so we actually are just growing those because we're collecting harvesting the seeds, and then we're going to be distributing them to different researchers as well as other applications, I think. Over here, let's talk a little about hardware. Maybe I'll get into something even different. Right now, everything that we grow in space is grown in this material called arsenite. It's a baked clay substrate. It's like what you find in a baseball diamond. It's not reusable. It's heavy. You use it once, you've got to throw everything away. Not the kind of situation you want to get in when you're trying to ship mass far away from the Earth. So we're trying to figure out how do I go from something that's non-sustainable, non-reusable, into something that's reusable. The first ideas that we started experimenting with were replacing that disposable material with 3D printed substrate that the plants can grow right in. Again, the challenge in microgravity is getting air and water to the root zone in the right amounts. So the 3D printed substrate allows, it's hydrophilic polymer, so it allows water to be pulled up at the vertices of the triangle, so it's got a pulling force, the roots can access the water, the centers of the triangle remain open, so that's where the plants can get their air. So this is the kind of case where I can fly up the material, throw plants in it. Once they've been harvested, I can reprocess it, heat it, melt it down, and turn it over again. So that's a good type of approach, but even better is something where I have no media. And so this is a sample of, here you can see one fully deployed of a porous, 2 minutes? A minute. Porous ceramic tube. I can pump water through it, and the pores of the surface allow water with nutrient solution to get direct access to the seeds and to the roots. And so if you can see this tube down here, we actually have it's sheathed and covered to keep the roots in the dark, which they need to grow well. And you can see these were just germinated a couple of days ago. And actually the beautiful thing about this test rig that we had set up is that there's no pump required. This is completely passive. The fluid is in a bag here, and it's covered just to keep light off and so no algae. And the roots themselves are pulling the water out of it as they need it. So now that's the kind of direction you'd like to go to. It's completely reusable. To clean it up, you just basically cut off the root mat that's has grown on the tube, wipe it down, and you restart. So that's where we'd like to go. That's not where we're at yet. We haven't validated all these things operationally in space to the point of being efficient with them and reliable and reusable. That's our challenge over the next several years, to be able to get to that point so when we make the vehicles that are going to go out to Mars or permanently stay on the habitats on the surface of the moon, that we have a system to support that. Anything else?
Is the 3D printed substrate biodegradable?
It's not biodegradable, but it's reusable.
Oh, okay.
You melt it down and reprint it. So that's the theory behind it.
Okay. So how much have you been able to do with the simulated regolith as far as growing?
All right, so we actually worked a formula for taking on the latest Mars rover and lander data. We basically looked at the mineralogy and the chemical composition, compared it to the previous simulants that were out there, which were nowhere near high fidelity enough for agricultural use. We've worked and developed a new simulant, and we've just now gotten large quantities of that. Our researchers here, some of the interns, are actually working to grow things in relative percentage, 100% simulant all the way up to 100% compost, and mixtures in between to see how does it perform. First blush is that it's been a real challenge to get things to grow in this more accurate simulant. Well, we've actually taken the chlorides out. The material we have is chloride free. There are people who have actually had the chloride additive pack. They're looking at using chemical processes or biological processes to remediate the chlorides. The question is really going to come down to efficiency-wise. When I'm on the surface of any one of these places, whether it's the moon using lunar regolith or Mars, is it take more energy to make a soil out of regolith, or is it use a hydroponic system?
Just re-engineer some yeast and use a bioreactor.
The key thing is people have to want to eat the food. That's the whole thing.
We put that in stuff that lasts.
How many times were you yelling at them?